Serious, what is something scary that has happened to you that you cannot explain rationally? I live in a condominium and we own 2 apartments on the 7th and 8th floor. The only way to move in between them is to step out of the apartment, take the elevator or the staircase, and enter the other one. One night, we ran out of ice cream upstairs, and my mom told me to go get some from the downstairs freezer. So I took the keys to the 7th floor's apartment, and since it was dinner time, no one was there. I walked into the pitch dark and realized that someone was sitting on the sofa. So I flipped the switch to see my dad just sitting there. It was kinda weird, but I just went to get the ice cream and asked if he had a key to lock up. No answer. I shrugged and thought, well, if he came in and locked the door behind him, he must have one. Went back upstairs, and my dad was sitting there eating dinner. I freaked out and asked, how the heck did he get up here so fast? And everyone told me that he's been here all this time. Told them it wasn't possible cause I just saw him downstairs, but no one believed me. Now I'll never go down there alone. Woke up from an unsettling dream because my wrists were really sore. Turns out my boyfriend at the time had his hands clamped tightly around my wrists because I had full-on tried to strangle him in his sleep, and he was trying to get me off his throat. To this day, I have no memory or idea why I was strangling him. There was a small door that led to attic space in my bedroom 11 years old to 13. And it became habit that I would shut the door as I walked into my bedroom a couple times a week. I didn't think anything of it. Just assumed my mom didn't close it all the way when she left it. After a while, I made the mistake of joking with her when she made a comment about me not picking up after myself. I said something like, every night I have to close the attic door behind you. How about you shut it all the way when you're done? She then informed me that she hasn't been in the attic in months. Asked my brother, nope. Asked my father, nope. So then I started to pay really close attention to it, making sure it was closed in the morning, checking it after school, checking blaster dinner, then head up to bed, and open. After a couple months of wondering, studying, experimenting, I thought I'd see what happens if I just don't shut it. Opened the door before school, and checked it after school, still open. Checked it after dinner, still open. Before bed, still open. Now I'm laying in bed, mind going crazy with the open door across the room. Decide to check it out, so I roll over and focus on the black space into the attic. To see a face staring back at me. Bolt downstairs, wake parents, get ridiculed by brother, switch bedrooms brother, move into new house. About 6 months later, due to expanding household, new physics teacher and his wife bought our house. I could have forgotten all about that event and chalked it up to me having an overactive mind. But then my senior year, I discovered how awesome our physics teacher was. Became my favorite class, and by far, favorite teacher. End of senior year, my friend and I took our VHS camcorder around town, doing mostly silly things, but then took it to my old house to see what they've done with the place. We got a very fun tour. I got to tell stories about all the projects my dad did that were still part of the house. Then the wife leads us upstairs to show us the sewing room. I asked jokingly, notice anything strange in this room? And her face goes blank. On camera, she asks what I mean, and I try to shrug it off, but end up saying something about the attic door. She confirmed that every time she comes up to sew, the attic door is open. She then tells us that the second day of being in the house, their dog German Shepherd had gone into the room, but would not go back downstairs. He started barking and could not be consoled, and then jumped through the window, landing on the tin roof over the porch, and then running off. The dog did not come back until the next day, and has not stepped foot into the hallway that leads upstairs since. I had the initial thought that I could show my parents and brother the story I had on film, but I decided to just let it be. When I was in uni, I lived by myself. It was a nice little studio unit behind a house in a fairly decent area. I would honestly think nothing of walking places at night. There was a 24-hour McDonald's and a 7-Eleven that I would walk to, often between 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. since I was a massive night owl. Well, one day after finishing an essay at about 2 in the morning, decided I was hungry, but Didn't really have anything easy to cook, so I decided to walk down to the 7-Eleven and grab a pie or something. However, as soon as I opened my door, I was overcome by a suffocating feeling of fear. My heart started pounding, I started shaking, the works. Telling myself that this was ridiculous, I walked out to the street with the intent to still go. But that was as far as I got. I was terrified for no reason that I could understand, but no less intensely. Despite that, I ran back inside and ate dry cereal. Later the next day, I heard about a group of drunk guys that were causing havoc down near the intersection at the 7-Eleven. They'd beaten up someone from my uni. Even though I can't explain it, I'm convinced something bad would have happened to me that night if I had ignored that feeling and gone anyway. I was in first grade, hanging out at recess with a friend. He was shooting some hoops outside, and I was playing DS, sitting on the pavement. I remember him asking me if he could make a shot from halfway across the court. I told him he could try, but he probably wouldn't make it. While looking at my Ds, suddenly, my dad asks me what I mean, and when I look up, I'm sitting on my living room carpet, talking to my dad, and it's dark out. I was sitting in the same position, playing the same game, same level, and same exact spot in the level. Everything continued normally that night, and I didn't tell anyone at the time, but looking back, it is really freaky. I thought it was a dream for the longest time, but thinking about it, it didn't really feel like a dream, and I don't really remember dreams that well. I posted this a long time ago, but when I was younger my mom was dating this guy who we will call JB, and after a few months, he invited my mom, me, and my brother to go with him and his son about my age out to his lake house for the weekend. It was right on Lake Michigan, but up in a more secluded area, which was pretty awesome. Well, we got up there, and for one, I already felt really creeped out. It was a smaller 2, maybe 3 if you count the really big attic story house that had the living room or dining room or kitchen on the first floor, and had 2 bedrooms on the second floor. His grandfather had helped to build the place with the grandfather's dad, and then he lived there for most of his life, working as a tailor in the nearby town. We went up to the attic to get some beach toys, because that's where JB kept all of that stuff so he didn't have to haul it every time he went out there. Well, when we went up to the attic, I noticed in the corner, covered in some dust and cobwebs, about 8 mannequins, some just upper torsos, and some full body. Not out of the ordinary, considering a tailor had lived there. Me and JB's son slept down in the living room on the couch, since there were no more beds, and near midnight-ish I heard on of the stairs squeak a few times. Figuring it was my mom coming to check to make sure we were asleep, I told his son to be quiet, and quickly turned the TV off and hid under the covers. After not hearing any noise for a few minutes, I looked out from under the covers and saw 3 of the mannequins moving around in the kitchen. Like, their body parts weren't moving, but they were sliding around the kitchen. I swore I was dreaming, but was so terribly frightened I hid back under the covers with a small yelp, and then heard the dragging on the floor coming closer, and peeked out seeing one of them just a few feet from the couch. I hid back under the covers and shut my eyes tight, hoping it would go away. The next morning, got up and tried not to think about it really hoping it was just a bad dream. But when we went back up to the attic to put the beach stuff back, the mannequins were in different spots and weren't covered in cobwebs anymore. Don't believe me if you don't want to, but it happened, and I've been scared shitless of mannequins ever since.